Hey everybody, Mark B here, and I'm going to talk today about a new product that I've gotten a hold of, and what we're talking about is Dungeon Crawl Classics. So, as you can see, very thick book, and it has a $40 price tag on it, but I acquired it online, eBay Dice Head Games, for, after shipping, $31 even. That was coming from Tennessee here to Illinois, so it might be a little more if you live farther away. So what is it? Well, as the name implies, it is a dungeon crawl style swords and sorcery game, fantasy game if you will, where you enter dungeons and similar settings and hack apart monsters and take their treasure. It is very reminiscent in style and is supposed to emulate the styles of basic Dungeons and Dragons, first edition, advanced Dungeons and Dragons, that sort of thing. But what it does is present that kind of theme and style with a more modern, sensible, cleaned up rules that most closely resemble third edition, but really are totally their own entity. But that is what it does resemble the most. If you are not into hardcore, what I would call hardcore games, it is not for you. If you cannot handle rolling 3d6 straight down your character sheet for your stats, if you can't handle rolling hit dice at every level, including first, and possibly only having one hit point as a beginning character, if you can't handle save or die sort of things, if you can't handle this sort of deal, if you can't handle effects that will permanently mar your characters in different ways, this isn't for you. But if it is, if that's the kind of thing that makes you smile and you enjoy the challenge and the hardships, you know, great risks for great rewards, then this is a game for you, and it's definitely a game for me, and I'm going to give it huge marks. So let's talk about the pros. What's cool about the game? Well, I like the entire way it's set up. What you do is you get your friends together. All of you that are playing, except for the DM, of course, you make up to 4 0-level characters. All you have to do is roll their stats. You roll an occupation, such as farmer or beggar or mercenary. It'll be some, you know, regular occupation. You get a little bit of equipment based on that. You roll some random equipment, throw an alignment and a name on yourself, and then all of you, up to, you know, a good 20 characters it might be, enter a dungeon called the Funnel, 0-level dungeon. You will drop like flies. When it is over, the handful of characters that live become first level. Choose a class between warrior, thief, cleric, wizard, elf, dwarf, and halfling. It's like basic Dungeons and Dragons. Those races are their own class. You choose one of those, except for the racial classes, which is if you rolled an occupation that was one of those races, then that's what you are now. So if you rolled dwarf minor, now you're a dwarf. If you rolled anything that didn't have a race name on it, then you're a human, and you pick one of the 4 human classes. And the classes are great and very old school. And they're set up, you know, it's a thief, it's not a rogue, which I love. And it's very cool that they did things like classes can differ because of their alignment. So a thief that's chaotic is much different than a thief that is lawful as far as what bonuses they get. And again, it's like old school D&D where the alignments are lawful, neutral, and chaotic, and evil and good access doesn't enter into it. So that's very nice. Also cool is the spell casting, which takes up the bulk of the 400 and darn near 500 page book. Every spell gets a huge entry. Let me just flip to one here. This is Cause Earthquake, and you can see that it takes up all of that page, all of that page, and even a little bit of this page. Now why do they do that? Well, because spellcasting is not automatic in this game. Every time you cast a spell, you have to roll for it. And the number that you roll doesn't just determine yes, did the spell work, or no, did the spell not work. It also determines how well did the spell work, what occurred, or how bad did you fail. So if you cast a spell like Fireball, you might just get off a little fireball, or you might get off a gigantic explosion. Or you might just fail Fireball and then lose its use for the rest of the day, because that's how spellcasting in this works for wizards. You can use a spell infinitely until the first time you fail, and then it's gone for the day. Or you might roll so bad that your body is permanently corrupted in some means or fashion, or what have you. There's also spell burn. You can burn, like take ability damage to up your spellcasting rolls, which is great. And also, very interesting, is the Mercurial Magic, which is something that I first saw back in Dark Sun 2nd edition in the Dragon King supplement, but it's much more involved, or interesting in this anyway. Back then it was just every mage had flavor to their spellcasting. In this, it's every mage for every spell. So for example, if my wizard takes Fireball, I roll my Mercurial result, and that permanently affects my fireballs forever. So say I roll, I haven't even really studied the chart, but I might have a very effective Fireball. You know, and it might even be something that doesn't make a lot of sense. Your Fireball might trigger a healing effect in its area. So you burn everything with fire, but then everything in the area gets healed for a certain amount of damage. It's like I said, it's wild, it's crazy, it's random, and that's why I say if you didn't like that kind of thing, then it's not for you. But I find it to be highly entertaining. Warriors and dwarves get abilities where they can, it's mighty deeds of arms. So basically, it's a system build up so that they can always be shoving people off of ledges, disarming people, swinging from chandeliers. All of this covered under one mechanic that makes the fighters, have something to do other than just hack away. And back to magic for a moment. There's also a very nice system for magical duels between casters, which is not present in many games to any satisfactory degree. So those are many of the good things about it that I enjoyed. Clerics work similar to wizards, except that when they fail their spells become more likely to fail. They don't lose them for the day, and then their god can eventually get displeased with them if they continue to bother him for magic needlessly, and it works really nicely. And I love the idea that, say, a good not good, but a lawful cleric trying to heal a chaotic individual is not going to be able to heal him as well as he is another lawful individual. The gods actually care who you're using your magic for. Go figure. God doesn't really want you healing a member of a rival religion, so why would he, allow you to do that as effectively? So I love that aspect in the game. Let's talk about my critiques, the things I don't like so far. Number one is I feel that dwarves and warriors are far too similar. They share most of the same abilities. They have a little bit of difference, but for the most part, I would say that I wish that they stood out from each other better than they do. Also, this game uses what's called the dice chain, which in itself I like. It means that instead of always just having pluses or minuses to your dice roll, that you can instead have times where you roll a better die or a worse die. For example, if you were 2-weapon fighting, instead of attacking with 2d20s, to punish you for fighting with 2 weapons, you might only be rolling 2d16s, and that's where one of my critiques come in. You can modify dice, you can roll a d20 and just leave off 17 through 20, but many people don't like to have to re-roll dice like that. You want to roll the real dice. I don't want to have to go out and buy a d3, a d5, a d7, a d14, a d16, a d24, and a d30, but I already own a d30. And this game calls for all of those. So that's a little bit of a pain in the ass. but again, you can work around it. So my critique with that is that they have critical hits in this game, which are great. Instead of doing double damage or single damage, there's charts, and the chart depends on your level and your class. So you hit your crit, and now you roll on this critical chart, and it'll be kind of like the Warhammer RPG, where there's all kinds of broken hands and gouged eyes, and the warriors and such get a nicer critical hit chart than say a wizard will get, because they're just not as good with their wizards aren't as good with their weapons. So you have that aspect, which is great. But my problem is, and I haven't seen it in play testing yet, but if you say for some reason are rolling a d24 on your attack, well then you're not getting a crit on a 20 up. You're only getting a crit on a 24. So improving your die actually reduces your ability to get a critical hit, and I don't like that. The game also does have fumbles on natural ones, and there's fumble tables, so that's also an aspect of the game that I find very entertaining. But so those are a few of my critiques, and the only real main ones that I can recall having, and a laundry list of things that are cool about it. So I encourage you to check it out. Ask me any questions you want to ask me, and let's talk about it if you'd like to. I think you'll be pleased. Let me just show you real quick, even before we go here. And you can see that it's got some very old school artwork, and just some cool stuff everywhere. So check it out. It's even got some of the more comical drawings like in the old DM guides, and it's just a beautiful book in every way. So check it out. And they also have a special edition of it with a solid black cover with like the gold skull and such on it. Maybe it's a leather cover. I didn't touch it. I think it might be. It's more expensive. This is like 40, and that's like 75 retail. So you could check that out as well if you wanted. There's all kinds of adventures out for it that the company's been working on, and you know, easy enough to make your own. So check out Dungeon Crawl Classics. And until next time, I'm Mark B. Much love to everybody. Good night.